And then Neil had a success with a film with Interview with the Vampire. Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, and it made some money. And I think it was David Geffen, the producer, who...
After decades of silence, Liam Neeson finally revealed his deepest regret. At 73, he named the role that could have changed film history. In 2000, he turned down what became one of cinema's most iconic characters. The director begged him to reconsider. The studio offered him everything, but Neeson said no. His reason was heartbreaking. The role went to another actor who became immortal. The trilogy earned billions. Neeson missed it all. Now he admits this decision haunts him. What he says about that choice will break your heart. Liam Neeson was born William John Neeson on June 7, 1952, in Ballymena, County Antrim, and he came into a world that already felt tight and crowded. He was the only son among 4 children in a modest Catholic family. His father, Bernard, worked as a primary school caretaker. His mother, Kitty Brown, cooked for a living and carried the calm strength of someone who grew up with very little. Their house had only 2 rooms. There was no indoor plumbing until Liam was a teenager. Water came from outside. Winters felt colder. Everything required effort. Those simple details shaped him long before he understood what it meant to grow up working class in post-war Northern Ireland. The town itself was a divided place. Every year, orange marches filled the streets with noise and color, but Catholics were pushed to the sidelines. Liam remembered being told to stay inside during those events. He could hear the drums outside the window and wondered why he couldn't go out and watch. His parents only told him he didn't need to know. That answer stayed with him. It made him aware of the lines that cut through his community. So he grew up careful, watching, and always feeling a step back from the majority around him. He later said he longed for a school where Catholic and Protestant kids could sit together without fear. It was a simple wish that said a lot about the world he lived in. When he was 5, he got whooping cough. It hit him hard and kept him in bed for weeks. The coughing fits scared everyone in the house. Doctors were expensive, so his mother treated him with whatever she had. She barely slept. Liam remembered that feeling of being held together by her care. That illness showed him what family meant when everything else failed. It also reminded him how thin the line was between staying healthy and slipping into danger when you didn't have much. As he got older, life didn't slow down. By the time he was 8, he was helping his father at the school, shoveling coal and doing small maintenance tasks. Ballymena was suffering from industrial decline in the 1960s. Unemployment hovered near 20%. Every extra bit of income mattered. Liam learned early that work wasn't optional. It was survival. Those mornings of coal dust and hard labor built the discipline that would follow him for the rest of his life. Then something unexpected came along: boxing. He walked into the All Saints Youth Club at 9 and fell in love with the sport. Soon he was training often. At 15, he was a regional junior light heavyweight champion. By 1970, he had a silver medal from the Ulster Championships. He fought around 40 amateur bouts and won about 30 of them. People started talking about that tall kid with the sharp jab and tough heart. But boxing also came with injuries. At 16, he took a hit that gave him a concussion and left him dazed for minutes. Another time, he broke his nose and needed 12 stitches. Those moments scared him. By 17, he stepped away from the ring. He liked strength, not the brutality. And he knew the price of pushing too far could be much higher than a trophy. Around the same time, school became a battlefield of its own. From 1963 to 1967, he studied at St. Patrick's College. He acted in school plays, even played Macbeth in 1965, and something clicked inside him. But he also skipped classes because boxing took up so much of his energy. His grades dropped. He almost got expelled. Teachers struggled to keep him focused. Only one drama teacher saw something in him. That teacher encouraged him to lean into acting. It was the first push toward a future he didn't yet imagine, so he tried something different. In 1970, he enrolled at Queen's University Belfast to study physics and computer science. He thought maybe a stable job would make sense, but after a year, he knew it didn't fit him. He couldn't feel anything for the equations or the lectures. Instead, he kept slipping away to drama classes at night. He improvised scenes about Irish folklore and felt alive again. By 1971, he dropped out. It was a bold move, but he followed his gut. To survive, he took whatever work he could find. In 1972, he operated forklifts at the Guinness Brewery. He moved 2-ton loads every day for 20 pounds a week. The job was dangerous. The days were long. He called it soul-crushing. That feeling pushed him away from factory life and towards something he hoped would matter more. But life had another test waiting. In 1974, when he was 21, he was driving a truck on the icy A26 road carrying livestock. The lorry skidded, flipped twice, and left him trapped inside. The crash shook him deeply. He realized how quickly everything could end. That morning on the ice road stayed with him. It made him question what he was doing with his life. In 1975, he tried working as an assistant architect. At first, he liked drafting blueprints, but soon he saw his supervisor stealing materials like steel, cement, and timber, reselling them quietly. Liam was raised to know right from wrong. Seeing families cheated out of good housing made him sick. He quit within 6 months. It opened his eyes and made him want a life that felt honest and real. Not long after that, he enrolled at St. Mary's Teaching College in 1976. He thought maybe he could become a teacher. But during orientation, a theater director gave a talk about the power of stage acting. The director invited students to audition for a local play. Liam felt something spark again. He auditioned. He got a role. And once he stepped on that stage, he didn't want anything else. He dropped out of teaching college midway through the semester and committed to acting full-time. It was risky, but it felt right. His first amateur performance took place in 1975 at a community center in Ballymena. He played a villager in Sean O'Casey's play, The Plough and the Stars. During the show, he had lived a line about the Easter Rising, and the crowd reacted. Some clapped, some Protestant locals heckled loudly. The tension in the room was real, but Liam only felt the rush of performing. That night told him what he wanted to do with his life. Still, life in Northern Ireland wasn't peaceful. In 1976, he got caught in a pub brawl that turned violent when arguments about IRA sympathies exploded. Police rushed in and arrested several people, including him. Charges were dropped later, but the incident shocked him. He didn't want his temper or the country's anger to drag him into real trouble. From that day on, he made a promise to himself. He would use that same fire on stage instead of in the streets. Liam Neeson stepped onto a real stage for the first time in February 1976, and the moment felt bigger than anything he had ever imagined. He was only 23 when he walked into Belfast's Lyric Players Theatre and slipped into the role of a factory worker in The Risen People. The play showed the 1913 Dublin lockout, a strike that involved 20,000 workers, and somehow his raw voice and honest presence cut through the noise of a packed house. Night after night, the seats stayed full. People noticed the young man with the Northern Irish accent, who carried himself like he had lived 100 lives already. Mary O'Malley saw it too. She cast him again and again until he had appeared in 12 productions in just 2 years. Later in life, when he had fame and money, he would return to help raise funds for the same theater, almost as if he never forgot where the first spark hit him. 2 years later, in 1978, he moved to Dublin and found himself in the middle of the Abbey Theatre, a place he once thought was out of reach. He played Gar O'Donnell in Philadelphia, Here I Come, a young man torn between staying in Ireland or leaving everything behind. Liam performed it 150 times in only 3 months. He switched accents, tones, moods, almost like he was discovering new parts of himself each night. Hilton Edwards called his performance electrifying. The audiences could feel it. They watched a 6'4" actor fill the stage with a mix of vulnerability and force, and the play became one of the most talked about runs of the decade. For Liam, it was a turning point. He had grown up watching Irish families pack their hopes into suitcases. Now, he was the voice on stage telling their story. But the stage was not always peaceful. In 1979, he stepped into the Playboy of the Western world, and suddenly, history repeated itself. The original 1907 production had sparked riots over a few scandalous lines, and Liam's version stirred the same fire. His character bragged about killing his father, and conservative audiences felt the shock run through them. Nationalist protesters disrupted shows, debated culture, argued about morals. Yet, the theater remained full. The more they argued, the more people came. Liam's performance felt unsettling in a way that pulled people closer instead of pushing them back. And soon, critics were comparing the energy of that run to the Abbey's old golden years. By 1980, he stepped into translations by Brian Friel, and everything rose to a new level. He played Owen, a translator caught between language and identity during the Irish Ordnance Survey. The production ran for 200 nights at the Guildhall in Derry, which was unheard of for Irish theatre at the time. Critics praised the way he carried the role, powerful when he needed to be and gentle when the story softened. That performance earned him a nomination for the Irish Theatre Awards, and it pushed him into the circle of Ireland's top actors. People began to understand that he was more than just tall presence. He had depth that stayed in the room even after the curtain closed. In the middle of all this stage work, Liam made his film debut in 1978 with Pilgrim's Progress. It wasn't glamorous. He played the evangelist, not even the main character, in a low-budget Christian film shot in Northern Ireland. The movie came out in the US on April 5, 1978. It ran for only 1 hour and 9 minutes, and almost everyone involved was unknown. Liam later laughed about it, calling it amateur hour. He said it felt like a school play with a camera pointed at it. But even that awkward beginning became a tiny but important piece of his journey. It was the first step toward something he could not yet see. Things changed fast in 1981 when he joined the cast of Excalibur as Sir Gawain. The shoot was brutal. Real armor, freezing Welsh forests, long nights with real swords clashing. During one intense horse sequence, he fell and broke his arm, which stopped production for 2 whole weeks. Still, when the film came out and earned more than $13 million worldwide, people noticed the intensity he brought. It became a cult classic and marked the moment he finally entered the world of big films. Then came The Bounty in 1984. Liam played Charles Churchill, a harsh and violent naval officer. The film's production caused a storm of its own. Extras were flogged on set to mimic the brutality of the era, and mutineers shot dolphins for entertainment, which triggered protests from animal rights groups. Liam defended the historical accuracy, though he did not support the cruelty. The film starred giants like Anthony Hopkins, Mel Gibson, and Daniel Day-Lewis, and shooting on location in Tahiti and on the open sea tested everyone involved. Even with the controversy, critics praised the raw realism of it. And the debate around the animal scenes still appears in discussions of film ethics today. By 1986, he found himself deep in the Colombian jungle filming The Mission. He played Father John Fielding and lived through real hardship. The cast battled mosquitoes, illness, and isolation. Liam lost 15 pounds during shooting after getting sick. Some actors caught malaria. The jungle did not let anyone rest. He improvised much of his death scene, and that natural rawness helped the film earn a Palme d'Or, or at Cannes, and more than $55 million worldwide. It was the kind of project that changed actors, and Liam carried that experience with him long after they left the jungle. Then, in 1988, he stepped into the dead pool, acting alongside Clint Eastwood. During a high-speed chase, his car hydroplaned and slammed into a barrier. The crash could have ended his entire career. He suffered serious injuries and later had to go through therapy for adrenaline addiction because he had pushed himself too far with dangerous stunts. Yet he kept going. The film became part of the iconic Dirty Harry series, and he walked away from the accident with a stronger sense of what risk really meant. Everything shifted again in 1990 when he became Darkman. The role demanded a transformation unlike anything he had done before. He wore a 10-piece prosthetic makeup that could stay on his skin for as long as 18 hours. It took 5 hours just to apply. The glue and latex were so harsh that his skin was left scarred. At the same time, he was training as a boxer at 3 in the morning for another film called The Big Man. He showed up tired, bruised, and determined, and still delivered a performance so intense that the improvised line, "I am vengeance," became one of the film's most memorable moments. Darkman earned $49 million worldwide and proved he could carry a major film on his shoulders. Then came the film that changed his life. In 1993, Steven Spielberg gave him the role of Oscar Schindler in Schindler's List. Liam lost 20 pounds for the role and learned Yiddish to make everything feel real. They filmed in Poland, surrounded by places where real horrors had taken place. The weight of history hung over every scene. Liam confronted extras dressed as Nazis because the sight of the uniforms shook him. Spielberg often said Liam's emotional depth changed the entire atmosphere on set. The film earned him an Oscar nomination for Best Actor and brought global attention to the story of more than 1,100 Jewish lives saved by the real Oscar Schindler. The experience was life-changing for him and for millions of people who watched the film. 2 years later, in 1995, he transformed again for Rob Roy. He learned the Highland accent and fought with heavy claymores under the guidance of choreographer William Hobbs. During one sword clash with Tim Roth, he injured his knee so badly that production had to stop. Even with the pain, his performance earned a BAFTA award. The film stood out because of its brutal realism, and audiences felt the weight of every strike and every breath. At that same time, a rumor began circling around him. He was being considered for the role of James Bond in GoldenEye. The idea was serious. Producers wanted him, but his fiancée, Natasha Richardson, told him she would not marry a Bond actor. He faced a choice: love or Bond. He chose Natasha. He joked later that he would hum the Bond theme to tease her, but he never regretted the decision. In 1996, he stepped into Michael Collins, the story of the Irish revolutionary. It was intense and personal. He came from the Troubles and understood the tension behind every explosion and whispered threat. The film brought him praise, and it also brought danger. Real IRA members sent threats, accusing him of glorifying terrorism. For a time, he had police protection. Yet the film itself was powerful and widely respected, both in Ireland and around the world. It showed how complicated history could be, and how deeply a performance could touch the people who lived through those times. Liam Neeson stepped into the world of Star Wars in 1999 when George Lucas chose him to play Qui-Gon Jinn. Lucas wanted someone with real presence, someone who felt calm and wise the moment he appeared on screen, and Neeson fit that perfectly. Once he got the role, he trained for almost 6 months, learning lightsaber forms and drilling fight moves until they flowed like muscle memory. The duel with Darth Maul was filmed in a single intense week. It had wire pulls, fast footwork, spinning blades, and moments where Neeson pushed himself close to real injury. Fans loved Qui-Gon, so when Darth Maul killed him, the shock spread fast. People were upset because Qui-Gon was supposed to train Anakin. Still, Lucas ended the character's story to shape Obi-Wan's growth. The film crossed $1 billion worldwide and became the biggest movie of 1999. Neeson later said he would have liked to return as a Force spirit, but his story stayed off the live-action screen for years. Even so, his lightsaber skills lived on in behind-the-scenes footage, keeping his version of the character alive. After Star Wars, something unexpected happened. In 2000, Neeson was offered the role of Boromir in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. It was a huge opportunity, but he turned it down. He felt drained after losing Qui-Gon on screen and didn't want to play another character who dies early in the story. Sean Bean stepped in, turned Boromir into a legend, and gave fans a line that became a meme for years. "One does not simply walk into Mordor." Over time, Neeson admitted he regretted the decision, especially as the trilogy grew into a global phenomenon. His choice showed how emotional exhaustion and timing can shift the direction of cinematic history. Then came another unforgettable role. From 2005 to 2010, Neeson became the voice of Aslan in The Chronicles of Narnia. He recorded in London using a calm, steady tone wrapped in a soft Scottish accent. He surprised producers by adding lines with spiritual weight, shaping Aslan as a symbol of Christ, but also as a figure linked to Muhammad, Buddha, and other spiritual leaders. That choice sparked controversy, especially among Christian fans who felt C.S. Lewis's message was being changed. Some lines were trimmed, yet Neeson's interpretation still made it into the films. He defended it by saying Aslan could mean something different to everyone, and that this helped the story reach people across cultures. His voice made the lion wise, gentle, and powerful all at once, and the debate around him lasted for years. Neeson's dedication showed again in 1998 when he played Jean Valjean in Les Miserables. There was a scene where Valjean lifts a heavy cart, and Neeson lifted a real 200-pound weight. It hurt him badly and left his back injured, but he pushed through because the film used almost no special effects. Every moment needed to feel rough and real. His work earned him a Golden Globe nomination and set a standard for how far an actor could go for authenticity. There was also a moment in 1988 when he almost entered the world of Batman. Tim Burton's team considered him for Alfred in the 1989 film. Neeson had the voice, the calm energy, everything needed to make the butler complex. But the role went to Michael Gough, whose version became iconic. Neeson later called it a missed Gothic opportunity. He wondered many times what he could have brought to Alfred. The loss became a small but memorable footnote in his career. Everything changed again in 2008 when Taken hit theaters. At 55, Neeson suddenly turned into an action powerhouse. He played Brian Mills, a former CIA agent with a brutal combat style built on boxing, Krav Maga, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and Judo. He trained for 4 months, grinding through interval training and fight drills to prepare for more than 30 fight scenes. The famous line about a particular set of skills wasn't in the script. He improvised it after the director told him to add more personality. Taken opened at $24.7 million in the US and reached $226 million worldwide. Suddenly, Hollywood realized older actors could lead major action films. Neeson became the blueprint. The sequels followed quickly. Taken 2 arrived in 2012, set in Istanbul, and earned $376 million across the world. Neeson wasn't happy with the script, calling it too predictable. When Taken 3 came in 2014, he openly called the script lazy. He pushed for big changes, including a helicopter chase. The film earned $84 million worldwide, a big drop from before. Audiences felt tired of the formula, and critics agreed. Even so, Neeson's honesty stood out, showing how risky repetitive storytelling can be. In 2010, he joined the A-Team and played Hannibal Smith. The production tried something unusual. They filmed a real tank drop. A tank was thrown from a plane with parachutes and landed in a lake for the big stunt. No CGI, just planning and risk. Behind the scenes, a major fire destroyed props and delayed the film. The movie still reached $177 million worldwide, and the tank jump became one of the most talked-about stunts of the year. A year later, he starred in The Grey. The story followed survivors in the Alaskan wilderness after a plane crash. To make the wolf scenes real, the production used trained wolves in British Columbia. Neeson added emotional depth when he improvised a prayer scene. The director had recently lost his father, and Neeson tapped into that grief. Animal rights groups attacked the movie for showing wolves as killers, but the team explained that wild wolves rarely attack humans. The emotional core of the film came from the fight against isolation, fear, and the weight of personal loss. In 2014, he appeared in A Walk Among the Tombstones as Matt Scudder, a former NYPD detective. The story used real NYPD cases from the 90s, including kidnappings and drug crimes. Neeson researched heavily, reading case files and speaking with retired detectives. When the film faced criticism for racial stereotypes, he responded by donating his entire fee to anti-trafficking charities. His choice showed how actors can use their platforms to support causes beyond the screen. Then came one of the darkest moments of his life. On March 16, 2009, his wife Natasha Richardson was taking a ski lesson at Mont Tremblant in Quebec. She fell on a beginner slope and hit her head. She laughed it off at first and told Neeson she had just tumbled in the snow. But hours later, everything changed. She was rushed to one hospital, then flown to Lenox Hill in New York. Doctors found a massive epidural hematoma. 2 days later, on March 18th, she was brain dead. Neeson arrived to hold her hand one last time. They had talked before about what to do in such moments. He honored her wishes and let her go. She was only 45. Her death made people around the world rethink helmet safety and the hidden danger of silent brain injuries. Another storm hit in February 2019 when Neeson revealed something from decades earlier. He admitted he once walked the streets of London with a club, filled with rage after a close friend was raped. She told him the attacker was a black man, and Neeson said he went looking for any black man to provoke him so he could kill him. He never found anyone and never acted on it, but the anger terrified him later. When he shared the story publicly, people were shocked. Backlash spread fast. He apologized and said he felt ashamed of his thoughts, calling them unacceptable. The moment sparked long debates about racism, trauma, and responsibility. His personal life faced other cracks too. He married Natasha in 1994. They had 2 sons, Michael in 1995 and Daniel in 1997. In 2000, during the intense promotion for Star Wars Episode 1, the couple faced a custody scare. The stress nearly broke their marriage. Instead of separating, they went to therapy, rebuilt trust, and stayed together. They homeschooled their sons in Ireland, far from Hollywood noise, giving them a quiet life. In 2003, Neeson collapsed on the set of Kinsey. He had severe sleep apnea. His tonsils blocked his airway during sleep, causing dangerous pauses in breathing. Years of chain smoking had damaged his respiratory health. Doctors performed emergency surgery. He never forgot that warning. After Natasha's death, he quit smoking completely for the sake of his sons. Later, he spoke often about the importance of sleep health and the dangers of ignoring the body. Another rough moment came in 2019 when he was arrested in New York for driving under the influence. His blood alcohol level was 0.09, just above the legal limit. The pressure of public criticism, grief, and years of emotional weight had caught up to him. Instead of hiding, he entered rehab and used the experience to reset his life. He took on better roles, including voice work in the Lego Movie, and changed how he managed fame and personal struggle. Then came Marlowe in 2023, a detective film set in 1930s Bay City with a budget of more than 22 million euros. It opened in 2,281 theaters, but earned only 1.8 million in its first weekend. It made 6.3 million worldwide. Critics were harsh. Rotten Tomatoes hovered at 25%, calling it tired. Neeson later said he regretted making it. Even though it found a small audience on HBO Max in 2025, it never escaped its reputation as one of his weakest movies. Then in 2025, something surprising happened. At 73, he led a reboot of The Naked Gun. It was full slapstick humor, falls, stumbles, and silly chaos. Neeson needed knee braces during filming, but he kept going. He joked about it in interviews, even parodying his own taken catchphrase by saying, "I will find you and make you laugh." The film arrived on August 1, 2025, with Pamela Anderson, Paul Walter Hauser, and Danny Huston in the cast. Reviews were mixed, but people loved seeing Neeson try something new. He hinted it might be his last physically demanding comedy, yet he enjoyed every bit of it. And through everything, one regret stayed with him. Boromir, the role he turned down in The Lord of the Rings. Peter Jackson wanted him. He said no. Sean Bean stepped in and became unforgettable. Neeson admitted in 2025 that this choice haunted him. The trilogy became one of the biggest successes in film history. Missing that chance became the one career decision he wished he could change.